Wednesday, and we're gonna baby babble. I'm really excited about tonight. I'm gonna be talking to a dear friend of mine, Nicole Madsen, about her birth experience. I'm gonna wait for Nicole to hop on here and then I'll add her. But this is our second interview with Baby Babble. Okay, I think I'm still here. It said bad connection, but I think we're good. So second interview for our Baby Babble series with my dear friend Nicole Madsen. I can't wait to chat with her. Nicole was my maid of honor. I was her maid of honor. She is, I like to call her, we call each other SWIM, which is for, it's an acronym for, hi, okay, I'm going to add you in just a second. We call each other SWIM because we are soul woman mates. That has been who we are since like the day that we met, and I can't really describe it any better than that. We just have such a natural soul bond together, and it was interesting because we both were pregnant and gave birth in different states, so we went through a really huge life thing really far apart. So it's interesting to kind of be able to connect on here and talk about it and kind of relive the experience with each other. So I'm going to add her on here. Hopefully this is quicker than before. Hi. Nicole Madsen is watching. Oh, I almost added a different Nicole. Hi, Nicole Smith. I almost tried to add you on camera. Hold on a second. Okay, so Nicole Madsen. I don't know if you have like a privacy thing on, but every other person's name I click on, I can add them on camera, but for you, for some reason I can't. Let's see. Let's not do this whole like technical issue thing again. Is there a way to ask me to jump on? I can add Nicole Monroe too. All these Nicoles are watching. I love this. And look, I can add Nicole Monroe and I can add Nicole Smith, but I can't add Nicole Madsen. So what's up? I can block you, but that's not the intention here. Let's not do that. Hi, Nicole. Okay, we're gonna figure this out. This isn't gonna be a thing again. Clicking on your name. Are you still, she's not watching anymore. Let's see. This is so funny. All these Nicoles are watching. How awesome. I need Nicole Madsen to come back on here though. Let me see if she texted me. Please hold. Okay, she's got to hop back on here. We'll wait for her. But for anyone, she's texting me, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. I don't even see that she's watching. Oh, here you are. Here you are. It says can't bring Nicole on camera. They can't join your broadcast at this time. Are you on your iPhone or your iPad? Okay, we figured it out. She's on her computer and it won't let me add her on her computer. She's got to go on her phone. So we got to wait for her. She keeps saying I'm here. Hi. So like I was saying before, I'm going to wait for her to hop on her phone or her iPad. This is like the weirdest thing. We would think that like our computers are like the best technology to do anything on, but the only way I can function is through the iPhone. Like the only thing that works for me is the iPhone. So I'll wait for her to hop on through her phone or computer. But if you're just joining, Nicole is my dear friend. We had our pregnancies and births when we were living in different states, so it was really hard for us to kind of be apart during such a sacred time. She delivered her son Finn just a couple months after I delivered Shane, so I missed the birth. I missed her baby shower because I was, I don't know, like a week or two postpartum, I think, and I just wasn't up for traveling. So this is such a cool thing to do, to reconnect with her and to kind of talk through the experience that she had. We had very different experiences, and I created this series for women to share their story, share their truth, and kind of heal from the process of birth. No matter what your experience is, there is a healing process. Healing doesn't mean that something bad happened. Healing just means that something happened, and our body is going to physically and spiritually and emotionally change. Oh, here, she's on her phone. Yay! The power of an iPhone once again. Okay, it says it's inviting you, so we'll just see when you pop up. Connecting. She's here.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe I should turn sideways. Hi.
This is
the
most ridiculous thing.
I know. Tell me about it. You're like sideways.
I am? No. Okay, hold on.
Oh, there you are. I know. I tried to turn mine and it wouldn't let me. It was like, turn your phone around.
Oh, that's super annoying because I have like all of these like plugs. Okay. Super professional.
I told everyone that we're soul woman mates, and I think our sweater is indicative of that. I think it's proof.
Totally. All right, I think I'm gonna have to hold my phone for this, which is just fine. All right, I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yay. Okay, so I gave everyone a short intro of who you were. It was funny. I asked Nicole for a little bio, and she was like, I don't know. This is weird. And she sent me a little something. But then I went to your Instagram, and I was like, oh, your Instagram literally says, love Jesus, love my hubs, love my babe. And I feel like that wraps you up so perfectly.
It's perfect.
Yeah. But I was telling everyone how we were, apart for our entire pregnancy experience and our birth experience. And so it's kind of cool to be able to relive it together and talk about it. I, of course, told everyone that you're my soul woman mate.
Yeah.
We had totally different experiences. And I feel like your experience is one that needs to be heard and needs to be shared. And I feel like a lot of people see birth as just a physical feat, which it is a huge one, but there's also the whole emotional side of it. And I just kind of want to talk through what your experience was like, and let you just kind of process that however you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask me a question.
I ask you to just kind of start with your pregnancy. Like, what was your pregnancy like? Did you prepare with like a birthing class? Did you write out birthing options? Like, how did you envision your pregnancy and birth happening?
Yeah. So before I was pregnant, I like hated hearing people talk about their birth plans and like, how they did it, because I think it's because I have friends that are on both sides of this like mommy debate, like birth debate, like what's the best way to do it. And so many women are like, this is the way that I think it should be. So like, this is the way. So
this is how you do it.
Yeah. So I kind of just like entered birth with like I entered pregnancy with like earmuffs on. Like, I don't want to hear your opinion. Like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. Yeah. And I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to know what people thought. And it was kind of like rooted in fear. I think I was afraid of like labor and delivery.
Yeah.
So like, as I found out I was pregnant, and as I went through pregnancy, it became like very apparent to me, like, you have to have a plan. Like, your doctor's going to ask you, like, you have to know what, we should think about this a little bit. So I decided that I wanted a hospital birth. I was going to deliver at Ohio State, because that was the hospital where the nationwide, the children's doctors, like, they were there at the ready, because I was so afraid that like something was going to go wrong, that something was going to be wrong with Finn. So like, I wanted the team, like I needed the team around me. So I was like, we're going to have a hospital birth. and I didn't want an epidural, mostly because I was more afraid of needles than I was afraid of like the pain. So I didn't want to do the epidural, and like I had picked up snippets of information because people just like so freely give you their advice when you're pregnant. And so I had picked up that like, yeah, yeah. So someone had said to me, or a couple of people have said to me like, oh, well, if you move around a lot, like labor is better. Like it goes faster, you know, you should move. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be like tied down. I want to be able to walk. Like this is what I want.
Yeah.
And as I went through my pregnancy, like for no memorable reason, the desire to have like a natural birth became a lot stronger in me. And I think that was almost rooted in pride for me. Like I felt like this is the way that God designed my body. Like I'm designed for this. I should be able to do this. Like there's no reason that I should need all of these other things. So this is what I'm going to do. So I started talking with my husband a little more seriously about what I wanted, what I thought was best. And it's actually funny because he comes from a medical family. And so his like ease of leaning into and trusting like the practices and the systems that are in place, like it just comes a lot easier to him. And he's like, well, if this is available, you should do this. Like if you can do this pain-free, you should do this. So we like butted heads a little bit about it, I think, but ultimately he was like, whatever you feel like is best. Like you're the mom, you have this like sort of intuitive sense of like, you know, what's the right thing to do for you guys. So like, I want you to do that. And I'm going to be supportive of that. But I've heard him talk about it in a very, sort of like raw and beautiful way that as a husband, as my husband, he is in every way like wired to, you know, sort of like protect me. And so when he sees something, when he sees me struggling, or sees me in pain, like that's hard for him and he wants to fix it. So that sort of came up like in the labor process of like, I was having a hard time. So he was like, what do we have to do to fix this? So that was pregnancy. And, you know, my plan.
Did you really believe that you were going to be able to do it your way? Or was your fear still there going into labor?
You know, I didn't probably prepare like the way that I should have. Like when I like talking to you about it and talking to other moms who do it naturally, there's like a lot of like physical and emotional like prep and that goes into that. And this is like a whole nother topic, but I feel like things in my life have come unexpectedly easy for me. So I just felt like, well, I'm going to be able to do this. Like, you know, like I got through college good, like I got a job really easily, like all of these things happened super well for me. Like I didn't have any struggles. So like this will be fine. Like I don't need to study for this. Like I'm good. I got it. I'm fine. So, I guess I did. Like I thought that I was going to be able to go into it just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you envisioned this being like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to push a baby out my vagina and we're going to go home. Like this is just what mine's going to be.
This is going to be.
Did you, so you said you didn't like study for it. So did you take any kind of like childbirth classes or anything like that?
Yeah. So Noah and I did an online birthing class through Ohio State because like our schedules were so crazy. He was finishing up his MBA, so he had like no time. So we're like, you know, an hour like every Friday night sitting in our living room like watching this online birthing class. And we got to the section that was like cesarean birth and we were like, skip.
Yeah.
So we were like,
everyone.
Yeah. It's insane. It was so funny. We laughed about it later. but yeah, we skipped that part. So we had sort of prepared for, you know, like vaginal birth, what it was going to be like, the different phases of it, you know, sort of like what the big ending is, like that final stage of labor. Had talked a little bit about like, you know, very briefly, like surface level, like pain relief techniques and, you know, how he could help me get through that.
Yeah.
But we not in a million years thought that this would end with a C-section.
Yeah.
I've never had surgery. I don't have my ears pierced. I'm terrified of needles. I don't have any tattoos. Like, that's
Yeah.
surgery is not my jam. I don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, when you said, you know, you got to the C-section part and it's like, swipe, you know, you continue past it because part of you is like, well, let's just keep a positive mindset. Like, we'll be fine. Like you said, I'm healthy. This is going to be just a life process. Then I feel like it's so common that a lot of women don't consider that part. And I think that's the kind of like cliche with like a birth plan. And I like to call it birth options. And I think kind of like as a doula, that's what I focus on the most is the mindset of what could happen, but also just kind of like walking through the steps of the different scenarios that could play out. That if the moment comes, like, okay, this is what happens in scenario A, and this is scenario B. And so even though we're not saying, let's prep for a cesarean because I'll probably have it, it's the thought of, okay, if a cesarean happens, this is the information that I might want to think about. These are the questions to ask. This is how our family is going to handle it.
Yeah.
And I think I was honestly a lot like you, where I did a lot of cesarean and I did class stuff, but I was just like, skip that part. Like, I'm not going to talk about that. That's not how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Had to have been a shock for you, like when the moment happened. So talk to me about like the labor process and what led up to the decision to have a cesarean.
Yeah. So, I went, so like just for humor's sake here, Finn's expected due date was September 8th. So this is like the beginning of football season. And for anybody who doesn't know anything, who's watching, who doesn't know anything about Columbus, like Columbus is a football town. You know, the city shuts down on Saturdays. Like it's insane. So, and when we did our tour of the hospital, they give the moms who are expecting during football season, they give you the number to campus police, because if you go into labor on a Saturday, you have to call campus police, like for them to like make a path for you and like open, and like to open the exits, because they close down all of the highway exits to campus. So like you have to call them so that like if you need them to open one or if they have to clear a path for you, that they'll do that.
Yeah.
So this whole pregnancy, Noah and I are like, please, baby Jesus, do not let us go into labor on a Saturday. And like, let's not have September 11th be the birthday of our son, because like, that's a sad day. Yeah. So September 10th, Saturday, September 10th, I'm cleaning my house.
The game is on.
The game is later that afternoon. The morning of September 10th, I go into labor, basically. It's like pressure, like nothing crazy. Honestly, like I was thinking, oh, am I having like a Braxton Hicks contraction? Because I had not had them at that point. So I didn't really know like what I was feeling for. So I'm like, oh, this is probably Braxton Hicks, like nothing crazy.
Yeah.
And as we get into the afternoon, like I'm very obviously going into labor. I'm texting some of my girlfriends and they're like, sweetheart, you need to like load up on the protein and take a nap. And my husband and my husband and my mother-in-law, because she was in town visiting for the day, they're like, oh no, like let's go walk around North Market and have lunch. And I'm like, 41 weeks pregnant and huge. So
like,
no, I want to sleep. So, do lunch. This whole time Noah has downloaded an app on his phone and he's like tracking my contractions so that he knows like how, and it like alerts you like, oh, you should think about going to the hospital. So, by the time we get back from lunch,
But I could track mine, but it was never like, this is the time.
Yeah, I don't know what he did a
That's
lot of like research into what the best one was and whatever
yeah.
he found because by the end of this process, this app is like screaming, you need to go to the hospital, you need to call an
It's
ambulance, like
time.
it's coming. So, but anyway, we get back from lunch and we sit down to watch the football game and like a little bit into it and I'm like my water breaks. I feel it. So I run upstairs, check out what's going on, and it's green. And I'm like, I don't remember reading this anywhere. Like this is I don't think this is normal. So I go downstairs and my mother-in-law is a nurse. So I ask her like, it's green. What does that mean? And Noah's like, what? So she's like, it's probably yeah. She's like, it's probably meconium. Like, why don't you call the hospital and just like have them confirm it and figure out what you need to do? Yeah. So I call them and they say, yep, probably meconium. You should be okay.
Meconium is the baby's first poop.
Yes.
Yes.
So, you know, and so that also can like signal like potential distress, like depending on when it happens, it can be cause for concern. So called the hospital and they said, you're probably fine. You know, keep monitoring your contractions and, you know, get ready to start making your way in here. So by the time we get ready to go and, you know, Noah's phone is screaming, like, you need to call an ambulance. You're about to birth a child, like, get there. And I'm like, this is labor. This is fine. Like, I'm good. So, they check me in and they check me out. They check Finn's heartbeat just to make sure that, because a lot of times, like, slowed heartbeat with meconium and distress and all those things. So he's fine. I'm barely dilated and barely effaced. But they put me in a room and we just kind of go through the process. And it was like 5 or 6 hours later, so like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night, and nothing had really changed. I was slightly more dilated and slightly more effaced, but like not what it should have been.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. I was totally exhausted. And so I decided to get an epidural. So at that point, you're stuck in bed, you can't be moving, all of those things. And I got to sleep for the night, so that was kind of nice. But the next morning, still hadn't progressed very much, so they put me on Pitocin. Nothing was changing. Took me off Pitocin, put me back on Pitocin, upped it more and more. Nothing was changing. And so at the 24-hour mark, this surgeon woman that I didn't even know comes in and she's like, failure to progress. You have to have a C-section. There's concern for the baby aspirating, you know, the meconium. You know, this is a problem, so we need to get this baby out of you. Mm-hmm. And I'm shaking and I'm crying. I'm hyperventilating. This is not what I expected. I'm terrified. And I guess I understand that the way that they do it, it's very like, you have to have a C-section. These are the risks. This is why we're doing it. Sign this piece of paper. Here we go. And they're wheeling you down the hallway. So I think they don't want to give you time to think about it, like if it's urgent enough. But it just was very harsh to me. There was no like love in that, you know. Yeah. And they do, you know, tons of C-sections every day, so they're probably like, you know, whatever, like let's just get this over with. But it was traumatic for me. Yeah. Especially because I'm just like really terrified of those kinds of things. Yeah. You know, so I signed the paper. They're throwing scrubs at Noah, and they're like, "Okay, let's go." And they wheel me down the hallway. They put me in the OR.
Did it feel like an emergency to you?
It did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether or not it really was, I can't say. But it felt like they made me feel like this was like a big deal. Yeah. And so at this, as scary as it was, at the same time, Noah and I had always said from the beginning, you know, these are our desires for what the birth of Finn is like, but ultimately, more important than anything, it's the goal is for Finn and I to come out of it, you know, happy and healthy.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think, you know, we would have chosen that. If it would have been like a longer decision time, we would have said, yep, let's do this. But I know it was really terrifying in the moment. And
Up
you know,
until that moment, did you feel like you had like an active role in everything that had happened from the time you got there to the time that they said like this is your only choice at this point? Do you feel like you
yeah,
had an active role with the epidural and all of that?
yeah, totally. I mean, like in hospitals like that, it's like the anesthesiologist is coming in like every, you know, couple hours, like, are you sure you don't want to get an epidural? And I kept saying, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. And, you know, finally I was just so tired, and it was like, this is something that I need.
Yeah.
I need to sleep, especially because it like how slow everything was moving. Um, it just seemed like the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I hadn't prepared, you know, I hadn't
Yeah.
protein loaded and taken a nap.
Yeah.
Um, maybe then I would have been fine, but I did. I felt like, you know, I was able to make the decisions that I wanted to make. Um, you know, up until they said this, you really need the C-section.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I remember being in Georgia, and I don't know, maybe I was like 6 weeks postpartum, I think. And I remember I had checked in with you a couple times, but I mean, you were in labor, so I wasn't texting you. I was texting Noah, and I was texting your mom. I remember at one point, it had been a couple hours, and like I knew that like either the baby was born or like something was happening. And I remember checking in with your mom, and she just said, they're prepping her for a cesarean section. I'll keep you updated. And I just remember saying, well, how is she? And all she texted me was that she's scared. And I remember like that was, I like, I didn't know how to feel in that moment, but I didn't feel like my own emotions. I felt like I was feeling like your heart and your emotions. And I couldn't imagine like what that moment could possibly feel like for you. Because I mean,
mm-hmm.
you had shared, you know, I know you don't have your ears pierced. I know that you don't do like needles and, you know, you don't have tattoos and all that stuff. So I know that wasn't like your comfort level. I remember her just telling me she's scared, and then I just waited forever to kind of hear what was going on. And I think because we were so distant that when we did finally connect, there was no point in talking about the cesarean anymore. The
Yeah.
celebration was like, Finn is here, he's
Mm-hmm.
healthy, Nicole is healing, she's healthy, she's fine. So we never really kind of addressed it. We kind of talked about it a little bit when I visited you, but um, walk me through like the emotions of the moment you were told you're getting a cesarean to it actually happening. I mean, do you want to relive it? Is it something that like you remember well, or was the like anesthetics too much for you? Do you remember him coming out of your body? Like I have so much curiosity around that moment.
Yeah. Um, I Unfortunately, the things that I remember are like the traumatic things, just like how out of control I felt, how painful it was, because even though you're numb, basically, there's still a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, so like, slightly gory detail, when they sort of put all of your like your uterus and all of that stuff back in your body,
Yeah.
um, it's a lot of pressure. And I don't remember hearing it, but Noah remembers hearing the the surgeons and the team say like the uterus is back in place. So like,
Oh,
yeah, it's very strange.
it
I just
has to be like an out of body experience because you're laying there, your body is physically open, but you don't know, you can't feel it. I can't even.
No. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember feeling like really exposed because, they wheel you in and you don't have any clothes on. They've got you like open to everything. Yeah. And they do, and they cut you open. And it's sad to me that I don't know the feeling of, Finn leaving my body. I know the feeling of my organs going back into my body.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember them, when they take the epidural out of your back, and they roll you to the side, and the feeling of that, like everything sort of pushing up against that fresh wound
Yeah.
is super painful. But so in all of that pain, but there was so much relief that he came out and he was okay. And the epidural softened my voice. People couldn't hear me talk for like days. But Noah standing right there, and I kept saying, "Is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay?" And he was fine. He was a huge baby. He had a huge head. He was 9 pounds 3 ounces.
He's still a huge baby.
He's still a huge baby. He was like something like 21 inches long. So, and people have said to me like since then, like, I don't think that you could have like delivered him on your own. Like, he's huge, which may have been the reason for the failure to progress. But he came out, and one of the things that was so important to me was being able to hold him skin to skin, like as soon as I possibly could. And it was a really strange feeling, because it was like I wanted him and I wanted to hold him and I wanted to know that he was safe and that he was okay, and I wanted to have that like bonding moment with him. But at the same time, like, I just wanted it to be over, and I wanted to like get off the table and, like sit up, and like I didn't, everything that was happening, I didn't want it to be happening. So it was really strange, like, sort of overlap of feelings to like
Moment. Yeah.
yeah. So I got to hold him, and it calmed me down a little bit. So it's like everything in motherhood, like you're excited and you feel happy, but you're like, stressed out and it's hard. So it was like all of the emotions at one time, sort of in that delivery process.
And how was your husband through that process?
He
aware, or was he just in shock like you were?
So sort of after the fact, he told me that, he was happy that Finn was there and he was happy that he was safe. But he just wanted me to be okay, because I was struggling so much. He was like, in his mind, it was like, somebody take this baby, he's fine, take care of him. Like, I need my wife to be okay.
Yeah.
'Cause like, I was fine. There weren't any complications with the surgery. Like a lot of people experience like extensive blood loss and all of these things. Like I didn't have that. But I just wasn't like reacting well. I was so emotionally worked up. And he just, he wanted me to be calm, and that was his biggest concern. But he did. I mean, he was the first of us. He held him before I did. He saw him. They pulled Finn out, and they were like, "Do you want to see?" And he stand up, and he saw Finn. Sort of like as he was leaving, and was with the team who was, cleaning him and checking him and making sure that his lungs were okay and all of that stuff. But I think his biggest concern was making sure that I was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What were the days following like? Because I know there's so many aspects of birth that are so intertwined and, related, and some women want to breastfeed, some women don't. Some people want skin to skin right away. And a lot of people just consider like the physical aspect of, okay, now there's sutures. Now you just have to, you can't lift anything heavier than just your newborn. And there's the whole physical aspect of healing, which can take several weeks. I think several years for some physically. But there's also that emotional component of healing too. So what was, once you were finally whole again and in recovery and at home and everything, what was the experience then?
So I think I went through sort of like different phases where it was like, this doesn't matter, everything is fine, to having a lot of questions about why things happened the way that they did. And not that this is the right thing to do, but I was looking for something to like blame. Like, did all of this happen because I decided to get an epidural? Did all of this happen because he was a big baby and he was sort of wedged in a way that like it just wasn't going to happen? Or, is it my body? Like, is this going to happen with my next baby? So went through sort of like thinking all of those things and trying to find something to like pin this on. And I
Yeah.
think now I'm in a place of just kind of acceptance of it, and sort of just like resting in the fact that like, and I told you this the other day, like we're both happy, we're both healthy, we're just as bonded as any other, mama and baby can be. I don't feel like I'm missing that at all. And unfortunately, I know that that is the experience for some moms, is that because of the way that everything happens, it's like something biologically doesn't trigger. I don't know, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like I'm missing that. The things that I did feel like happened and were difficult was breastfeeding was difficult for Finn and I, and my milk came in. It took a lot longer, I think, than it usually does for people.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of moms, and I think, and as I was reading about it, um, you know, moms who have cesareans, a lot of times it's like whatever biological thing is triggered when a baby and exits your body, through your vagina. There's something
Yeah.
biological that's triggered that like says, okay,
The
milk,
math
time to come in.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have that, so it was a little bit of a slower process. So that was a little bit frustrating. Um, that whole feeling of like being a woman and feeling like you're built for certain things and like your body is wired a certain way and it's like failing you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that happened. And then just like the emotional distress that comes with like in the weeks following and the days following, really not the weeks, but like the first couple days, like I couldn't do anything, for Finn other than feed him. And even that, I really struggled with. We had to do a lot of supplementing. And Noah actually fed Finn through a syringe, while this is kind of weird to explain, but like putting his pinky into his mouth, trying to teach Finn how to latch to something while feeding him formula through a syringe. And so I felt a little bit unnecessary in the whole process. So I mean, that was really hard.
Yeah.
More than I think the C-section and sort of like the emotional trauma that happened because of that. Like the breastfeeding was really difficult for us, and that was really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we got the hang of it, but it was like in those first couple of days, I couldn't get up to change his diaper. I couldn't get up if he was, sleeping in the bassinet across the room and crying. I couldn't get up to go get him.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, I think you're frozen. Can you still see me? I think I lost you. Where'd she go? Okay, we're reconnecting. Inviting. Hopefully we can get her back on camera. I hope it's not my Wi-Fi. She froze. Fingers crossed. Just trying to reconnect with her. It was getting so juicy. We were talking about important stuff. Can you guys still see me? Or am I frozen? Uh-oh. Let's see if we can get her back on. Hello? Just trying to reconnect her. Technical difficulties, always. So if you're just hopping on here, I'm talking to my dear friend Nicole. She's walking me through the process of, uh-oh, connection failed. Through the process of her cesarean birth to her son Finn, we're just walking through the process of what labor was like for her, what the moment was like for her during her cesarean section, and kind of leading into the days following and recovery. And I think what's really important to kind of highlight is her phone died. Hold on. Where is she? I'm coming back in a second. My phone died. Okay. So I think what's really important to kind of touch on something that she said about, I felt like I couldn't do anything for my baby. I felt like I couldn't get up. But I feel like she shouldn't have to. No matter how you birth your baby, it takes a village, So I hope that women understand that they don't have to be the hero in the situation. They don't have to be like the sole provider for their baby. I mean, they can be, but it really does take a village, and I think it's important to let other people help you. It's beautiful that her husband was able to feed. Oh, she's back. That her husband was able to feed Finn and be a part of that process, and also, the thought of trying to wrap her head around. Hi.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry, my phone died.
I hope this isn't my technical issue again. It just
No,
you left.
It's me. Blame it on me.
Yeah. Well, I was just recapping, and I was saying how you had touched on how after the birth you felt like you couldn't get out of bed and you couldn't do certain things for him, and I was saying how you shouldn't have to. It takes a village to raise a baby, and no matter if you have a vaginal birth or a cesarean birth, birth is birth, and you just went through an incredible feat to deliver your baby earthside, and it's beautiful that your husband could help you feed him. I do think the mother should be able to rest in bed for like a year. Seriously, my sister told me one time that I don't know if it was the Korean culture or some Asian culture. Literally, the mom and the baby they put a mattress on the floor, which is duh, that's easier than climbing up on bed. And the mom and the baby literally just lay on the floor, and people in the village and wherever just bring you food, bring you your meals. They have you go to the bathroom for a year.
How do I get in on that? Totally. Oh my gosh.
How can we change society to accept that more? But you were trying to wrap your head around what led to this cesarean, and why did this happen, and who can I blame? But I truly think it's so important for women to understand, no matter how your baby comes out, you birthed that baby. You didn't do anything less than a woman who pushes the baby out of her vagina does. You birthed that baby 100%. And I think, for me physically, I felt like I couldn't get out of bed either. I'm really, really tender.
Yeah.
I want to,
Yeah.
Not that the healing process is the same, but
yeah.
I hope that you've come to a point to know that you shouldn't have to do it all, and you didn't need to. That help was there for you because it takes a village.
Yeah. I think more than anything, pregnancy and birth and postpartum, I so learned to rest and rely on other people.
Yeah.
I was just not used to, that makes it sound like I had to. It was ingrained in me that I should be doing things for myself, and I'm independent, and I'm, strong, and I don't need anybody's help.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to even when Noah and I first started dating.
Like that?
Yeah. My husband opens my car door for me every time I get in the car. And I remember when we were dating, I was like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need you to do that. So it's all of it. Yeah. The whole thing, pregnancy and labor and delivery and postpartum, just to be able to rest and to not feel like I have to be busy doing things, and not feel like I have to be involved in everything, and, to let people help me, was a big lesson that I learned. And I think, where I'm at now with all of it is that it all just happens, the way that it's supposed to, in God's timing. And the plan is the plan. And, the Bible says that God knows us before we're conceived, and he knits us inside of our mother's womb. And I think to know that and then believe that about Finn and, you know, how the birth process went and all of those things, like, it just makes me feel humbled and gracious that that's the case. And I think I'm just at peace with it now. And he is a completely delightful child, and he's just like the best thing, and it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my last questions, has the experience influenced kind of what you want your next birth to be like?
Yeah, I think it, like, more than anything, it has encouraged me to, like, be studied and to be prepared, physically, mentally, emotionally, before the next time, because I do want to try to have a natural birth. You know, I think we'll be doing it in a hospital, but you know, I'm thinking about, like, you know, water birth. You know, you and I have talked about, you know, you being at my next birth. And so, like, sort of arming myself with the tools and the knowledge to be able to do the next baby, the next birth, you know, just like a little bit more prepared.
Empowered to kind of take control and say, you know what, I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to slow down with this. I'm going to make choices. And no matter what happens, like you said, the main goal is, am I healthy and safe? Is my baby healthy and safe? Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And being an active role. I think that's what's so important to highlight, is that no matter how you birth, what's truly important is that you feel like you were participating in the process.
Yeah.
You know? And that things weren't happening to you. Because as women, this is our experience. This is our body. This is our baby. And yes, the number one goal is safety and health. But you want to, it's so important to prepare ahead of time your mindset to just say, okay, I want to be involved in this process. I want to be heard. And if you're not heard, that's when the drama ensues, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So,
so what would you say, this is my last question.
Okay.
What would you say to moms who have had cesarean births that don't feel like they have healed from the process or feel like they're not coping? Is there anything that you did that stands out that helped you kind of close the book on the whole thing?
I mean, for me, I think that my faith has had a lot to do with how I've sort of processed and coped with and sort of, you know, healed. So, you know, I've been spending time in prayer and spending time talking to, you know, like-minded friends, and just being encouraged by that and being encouraged by them. You know, listening to my husband talk about, you know, in the moments where I was feeling sort of like shame and failure in it, and, you know, talking to him and listening to him and, you know, having him encourage me. And so I think surrounding yourself with a community of people who can encourage you and help you, lots of baby snuggles. You know, I think, like, that is the biggest thing. Like, he is here, he is healthy. And I don't.
And you did that.
Yeah. You did. You made it and you delivered it. And, you know, it might not be how you thought or how you wanted, but that, you know, that doesn't make you less of a mom or less of a woman. And it doesn't make, you know, that baby any less valuable.
Yes, absolutely.
I know it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it. So it's hard to say, well, like, do this and you'll be fine. But that's how I did it.
What's important is acknowledging it and giving yourself.
Yeah, totally. Giving yourself grace and the space to feel what you feel, surrounding yourself with encouraging people, and just knowing that, you know, end goal, that baby is healthy.
Yeah.
So,
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience
Yeah, absolutely.
about it. No matter if you had a vaginal birth or a cesarean birth, all births are different. So some people who have had cesarean births are like, oh, it didn't even affect me. Some are still coping with it, 10 years later. So
Yeah.
I think it's super important to talk about it. Talking is a vessel of healing for some people. Some people it's writing. Some people it's just like inner work, just thinking about it, reliving it, whatever it may be. But for me, I think talking about birth is so important, and I want more people to understand it and to accept it and to, just cherish it more and respect it more. So I really, really appreciate you sharing such a vulnerable and intimate experience in your life. And I really hope I'm at least in the same state for the next one. I would
Yeah.
love to be in the same She's the same state because, oh, gosh, what a
I
juicy time.
know.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me and asking me to be a part of this. So I'm honored.
Of course. Of course. Well, love to you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.